Well, I think that people have a hard time sometimes, Ashley, understanding the very specific intimacy of being in TV, movies, or theater and making something with a group of other people because it's such a unique experience. And like anytime I ever hear about two co-stars like fucking or falling in love, I'm like, yeah, obviously, of course. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Did you record? Did you record?
I'll do this little voice memo thing too, just in case.
Good.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley.
We appreciate it. We
trying to read the directions more these days. Yeah, I guess that's one thing I'm doing better at.
we really do not run a tight ship here. So that's generous of you that you're doing that. But I just,
that's the best kind of ship to be on. It's more like a raft, but you survive on them.
A loose ship.
Here's what I'm going to say. Did you ever see Joe versus the Volcano?
No. Should I?
Oh, first of all, yes, Ashley, you're so much younger than either one of us, but like that is a classic. And Caissie, you've seen Joe versus the Volcano?
Yes.
Have you seen
Is this a movie? It's a movie?
Yes, it starred Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan.
Wait, you mean You've Got Mail?
Yeah, right. But this is pre-You've Got Mail, I think. Right?
It's like You've Got Mail with a volcano.
But it's also like it was like sort of panned at the time. Like people hated it because they wanted the thing from the two of them, and what they got is this really bizarro movie that is so genius. And there's a whole thing, Ashley, when you see it, you'll know what I'm about to say to you, which is like what Caissie and I are essentially as like business partners and creative partners are like, we are floating on the 4 suitcases that he purchased to go on the trip.
Wait, are you talking about Castaway now?
No, it's Joe versus the Volcano. In the Castaway version, I guess, who's Wilson?
Who's the volleyball?
Someone's the volleyball. Someone's the volleyball, and someone is that fucking package that he never opens.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have to watch Joe versus the Volcano.
Joe versus the Volcano, and Meg Ryan is so genius in it. And at the time, I think it was really. I interviewed her a couple of years ago for that film festival, the Bentonville Film Festival. Do you remember that, Caissie?
Yes.
And so before I interviewed her, I watched a bunch of films, obviously, like to prepare. I was super excited to interview her, to talk with her.
I mean, she seems lovely, yeah.
She is lovely and iconic, and also just like so many memories of my favorite movies from growing up, star Meg Ryan. So anyway, I rewatched Joe versus the Volcano, and I was like blown away by how genius she is in it. And then I like looked into it a bit, and it really was kind of like she was sort of panned for it, and like people hated the movie when it first came out.
Wait, that's so I can't believe I haven't even. Is it a rom-com or is it scary?
No, it's a rom-com, but
okay.
it is
it is
weird. It's like a weird movie.
Oh. It's like heavier on the com than the rom.
Well, sort of, but it's weird. Like, basically, they play. No, he plays the same guy, Joe, the whole movie.
And she's the volcano?
No, she is a volcano. No, but she plays 3 different women.
Oh, that's too avant-garde for people.
Yeah, I know. And they couldn't do it. No, they couldn't do it.
In the 90s, no way. They're like, that's like a black box theater play.
No, they were over it. Well, guys, we just started because we've
done it again.
Here we are running the ship like the 4 suitcases that Joe is floating on in Joe versus the Volcano. But we're doing our best, and that's all we can do. Sometimes, my name is Busy Phillips. This is Busy Phillips is doing her best. I'm joined, per usual, by Caissie St. Ange.
Hello.
Today, we're so thrilled. The voice you've been hearing, you already know because it's in the description. But I will introduce a woman, an actor who I first saw on the stage.
Yes.
Blew me right away. Right away? Is that an expression? That's not an expression. But truly made me cry. And I saw a dress rehearsal. I saw the final dress rehearsal.
You did?
Of Mean Girls, the musical, guys. Ashley Park is joining us. Ashley's career has blown the F up in the last year and a half. Right?
That's because I got to work with Busy Phillips, so I'm sorry.
I feel like it's been hot all along. You've been nominated for everything that ends with a Y, plus some extras.
You were so like in Mean Girls. You were so incredible because that part is so. Wait, what's her name? I'm forgetting, and
Gretchen Wieners.
Because I don't do. See, again, this is the ship. I don't have any research, Ashley. I don't
No.
Why would
Gretchen
I
Wieners.
IMDb you? Gretchen Wieners, right? But also, my brain is just not functioning at full capacity right now. But anyway, so Ashley played Gretchen. Ashley originated the role of Gretchen Wieners in Mean Girls on Broadway. And I was working with Tina Fey at the time. We were developing the late night talk show. So, and I was in New York for something. I don't remember what. And she invited me to come see the last full dress rehearsal before you guys opened.
Yeah.
Which was so exciting. And I had never seen you before. And what was so impressive to me about that part and why I loved you so much in that show was that obviously, like, you've seen the movie, so you know the Gretchen Wieners character, and she can be a little bit of a, I'm used to
anxious, high strung. Yeah.
Anxious and high strung and like annoying.
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to avoid annoying, but she's a little Gretchen Wieners
Annoying in like a lovable way. Yeah.
Yeah, but what? Like, I cried at your song, which is a very funny song. Oh, look at here comes Rhea with water.
Hey, Ray.
But your song, you're like the heart. You really provide so much heart, and you just bring. It's because it's you. Now that I know you, I know.
Yeah. No, I loved that song so much. I've actually been thinking a lot about it recently. I just saw Jeff and Tina the other day too, and I was thinking about it because, like when you do show 8 times a week, and I've done other shows too, like there's always nights when you're like, oh, I just don't like, this is going to be hard today. And for some reason, that song every night, I really love singing it. And it was kind of the moment that like the audience really was like, oh, like what's happening here? And also just, the song's called What's Wrong With Me? And it's what every, not only teen feels, but like every person feels all the time.
Yes.
And I've been thinking about it recently because I was like, why it was like really moving for people is because the actual, that song was therapy for me, because the answer to that song was, what's wrong with me? You're not white.
Right.
Like that. And I realized, I remember when I first got the audition for that show, the song was the first thing because I knew the movie backwards and forwards. Like, I love that movie. And some of the scenes I recognized, and like Fetch and all those different things, You Can't Sit With Us. But the song is when I was like, whoa. Like, I really I was the last person cast in that show. It was very last minute thing. And I was so excited for my friends who were going to be in it, but I like just had never seen myself in it. And then I was like, oh, I don't know if I could be a plastic. Like, I don't know if that, and then I read the lyrics to the song, and I was like, I know exactly who this is. And it wasn't until recently is when I realized why. It's because that was so deeply embedded in me, like constantly growing up, especially around all white girls and stuff, and in an industry like that too. It's what's wrong with me? Why do I always feel undervalued? Why do I have to prove my worth here? It's because I'm not white,
Right. So when you say recently, obviously I imagine that you're referencing, the astronomical raise in hate crimes against Asian people in our country. Mm-hmm. And I posted a thing that you had posted on. I reposted you from Instagram.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you.
Well, it's interesting because I do think, especially, I am a white girl, by the way, just in case you didn't know.
I loved you in White Chicks.
Thanks.
That was my first Busy Phillips.
That makes sense because of your age and everything. Like, that tracks for me. Yeah, and I admit, like, I also was like model minority. Like, I hadn't read those books. Like, I was sort of like in my own world of like trying to learn all the things that I knew that I needed to learn. Mm-hmm. And it is a part of, first of all, like a part of our country's history that no one ever really talks about. That's super shameful.
Right.
In fact,
also, like I mean, it's not like this like secret that we've been hiding. It kind of is, but like I've had to educate myself too and realize the things that like I haven't been taught, like growing up in this American school system as well.
I mean, we moved in. Okay, so we don't live in Los Angeles anymore, but Ashley, when I bought my house 15 years ago in Hollywood, I had this incredible. It was a historic home, and so I got this incredible book made. Or sent to me from a company that they put together all this stuff, the history of the home. And they had incredible like things that they gotten from like the building department or whatever that they Xeroxed or whatever, copied and put in. And one of them was the original like listing for the neighborhood, in which it said no Asians, it said no Chinese. It said no Chinese, no Jews.
Wow.
And that was like, it was like, come live in this beautiful new development from 1920. It was 1920 is when
also the funny thing about the no Chinese thing is they actually mean no Asians, but people for so long just think China is Asia and that's all one. Correct.
Right. That's what that was why I was like, nope, that wasn't right, because it was more racist than just, yeah. That was the first time, when we bought that house and I looked through that, that was the first time I'd ever seen something. So, literally in black and white. And I was like, oh shit. Yeah. That's crazy. That's fucking nuts. And I do feel like it gets left. I do feel like a lot of people, when we learn about World War II, like Japanese internment camps get like one sentence in the history books that kids use in high school, right?
Right.
Like it's not like a part of the curriculum. Or, for instance, all of the work that was done in Hawaii that was essentially like enslaved people from Asia doing that work. It's wild.
It is wild. And it's a lot of, I think that, I think going back to like that song and why, I don't know. I do think it's interesting, that video. Thank you so much for sharing it and for watching it. It was really interesting to me because when I recorded that and posted it, I really wasn't meaning to share it. And I almost like really gaslit myself into not sharing it because it was, and I hadn't pre-written any of that. That all kind of just came from inside of me. And it was also because I was like on day 5 of a like isolated lockdown in Ireland and nobody I knew was awake. And I was kind of like, I have to just like, I don't know why this is so affecting me so deeply. And, I'm grieving so hard for this. And I, in response to the Atlanta shootings, and I also, how I gaslit myself almost was like, I don't want everyone in my life to be thinking that I've been like, I have this like dark hidden secret that I'm just like, that I've been lying to them kind of, that I've been going through this horrible thing, which it is, like, I think that the reason I am where I am, I've worked with you on a show, like, all of these things is because, I learned very early on how to navigate it. And I like really attest that to my parents because the whole Asian mentality kind of the cultural thing is kind of like, put your head down, do your work, show up, have a good attitude. And if you try your best and if you don't acknowledge any problems that are coming your way or any discrimination or anything, like you can maybe move forward. You can maybe raise your family here. Maybe you can have a future here. And so that like, it's not even like positivity or resilience. It's like its own kind of thing. And so I realized very recently, as I'm probably sure we all have in like this time of pandemic and spending more time with family or whatever, I was like, why am I a voice right now? Or why am I where I am? And it really had to do with the special qualities that my parents had as just humans. And then it happened to make me, and then I happened to wanted to go into this industry. And the only way to be an actor, especially on Broadway, is like to understand that every musical before a certain time was written by white people for a white audience, for white people to play. And so I understood that if like I'm so excited to like sing and dance and try to do this thing, but at every point I have to be trying to prove somebody, like I have to be better than the best,
Well, for sure. Yeah. Because you're like, I'm already not what the type is.
Right.
What the casting breakdown is. Right.
Like
right.
they pictured. Yeah. You have to be like above and you have to make them see it in a whole new way.
Right. And I'm already at this kind of disadvantage, but I never saw it as a disadvantage. I kind of saw it as like a, let's go for it. But I think that's why that video really impacted a lot of people who were in my life, because I didn't realize, it's not like I was trying to keep these things from them, but a lot of like the little specific things that I said are things that I've never talked about with people, because it's stuff that I've learned to just kind of deal with on my own. And it's easier for me to not call attention to those things. Cause like when I leave those conversations, or if I don't laugh at the joke, or if I say, oh, like, why would you say that thing about it being trendy to be ethnic right now? Like, how lucky for me to be an actor right now. Like, if I speak up at all, then
Guys,
I'm the one
clear,
who looks
I didn't
like
say that. I didn't say that.
No, actually,
right.
no. Busy is like actually like such a great example of an ally on set and in life. Like, oh my God, Busy.
I was like, I just have to be clear. That was not me.
It was not you at all.
But
No.
I've heard people say fucking shit like that. But it is, I haven't heard it first person. I've like heard it in the world be said. And it is always like mind boggling to me that people don't understand that disconnect.
Right. Well, and it's also easier for people, I've found, and it's like what I've been recently reflecting on. And like, I think I heard in one of your other podcasts, you were talking or giving advice to somebody. And they were asking like, how can I be a good mother? And you're like, as soon as you're asking like, how can I do that? You are being a good one. And like my constant thing has been like, when like girls didn't like me in school, or like everybody was mad for these different things, I was constantly like, am I the monster? Wait, am I the antagonist right now? Like, if all these white girls in my class at school don't like me, I must be there. I'm doing something wrong, And like, what's so crazy, I kind of lost my train of thought, but I forgot it again.
Your face was so cute in that moment. You were like, wait a minute.
I did have a point about what exactly you were saying. Shoot,
But
it'll come back to me.
No, I know what you were saying. You were in that moment when you were like, why are all these people upset with me? Am I the problem? But in that moment when you were concerned about why you were the problem, you must have realized, oh, I'm not the problem.
Right. Oh,
they're the ones that have the problem.
Thank you, Caissie. You're amazing. Because now I realized what I was going to say was, and I think, and I'm sure you both can relate, and especially you, Busy. I don't think we've ever talked about this, but I think that people love and feel so much more comfortable when you can put somebody in a box, right? So, like, if I am just like this, if I'm just the funny Asian, or just like the cute demure one, or just the one who can, like anything, anytime I like found a new part of my personality, the more people were like, oh gosh.
I did have a therapist that once said to me, almost everything that somebody comes at you with is about them, not you.
Right.
Oh, wow. That's great. Oh, I'm writing that down. That's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, listen, here's the thing. All of this is to say that like people can do better. People can be aware. They can do their own work. And like, you don't have to take on people's bullshit just because
Totally
everybody's got their own bullshit. And the fucking rise in hate crimes must, and after the Atlanta shootings, and like all, like that must feel, that's like a different fucking thing. And it brings up all of the microaggressions and all the times in your life when you're like thinking back, like, oh my God, in high school and those girls. And then that guy that said that thing to me about being an ethnic actor, like, fuck that guy. Like, it just re-triggers the trauma of like, you're dealing with your microaggressions, you're like moving through the world and you're like, I can deal with this because you're taught you have to fucking deal with this. Right. And then what's like sort of bubbled up and happened now sort of on a very bigger public scale with these attacks, emboldened by the fucking asshole that used to be in the White House.
Right.
And the way that he freely spoke about, people of all races that were not white, and sort of emboldened racist ideology and attacks. But to see all of those things now happening, it has to just bring to the surface for I mean, all of our friends who are in the AAIP. Wait, what is it? I'm not
AAPI.
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 Yeah.
AAPI. I just
Yeah.
not.
Or just like, yeah.
AAPI community. Yeah,
Asian
exactly.
American Pacific Islander.
Pacific Islander.
Yeah. Acronyms are weird.
They're
Acronyms
very
are
hard to remember. And Ashley, I want to ask you, because you said you almost gaslit yourself into not posting the video. And I'm sure that probably had something to do with, I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm sure you kind of felt like this terrible thing happened to these people, but like my life is good. Like at this moment, you know, what happened to them didn't happen to me. And it's hard because you do this dance, right? Like if I post this video, am I making it about the way that I feel in this moment?
Yeah.
You know, but isn't the way that I feel in this moment also kind of important? And I think what Busy was bringing up, actually the way that you feel was important, because it does bring up, yes, you know, maybe you haven't been the victim of violence or a hate crime. That is true. Mm-hmm. But I have to believe that you have faced microaggressions throughout your life. And that's one of the conversations that I think we need to be having, because I think well-intentioned people are going around committing microaggressions.
Well, and that's why I posted it also. I mean, that's so well put. And I think it's that I realized, you know, when we do have voices and we do have like platforms and we like activism, I think I've always kind of had that mentality of like, who do you think you are? Like, why would people, like, why are you saying what you are feeling and all these different things? Like, that's not your place. And the same reason I almost gaslit myself from posting it. I'm using gaslit a lot because I just found out what it means. I was using it wrong for a really long time.
It's one of my favorite words. We love it.
It's a very effective word, and it's very fitting.
It's so specific, and it's exactly, I can't believe it didn't exist before. Anyways, so the reason I did almost gaslight myself is actually the reason why it was impactful, is because when I was like, I mean, I couldn't, you know, even like reading some of the comments, I was like, oh, like people just need to see another person's face. Like the fact that I've never had somebody say those things to me, like I've been asked for where I'm from more than I'm asked my own name. Like those kinds of things, like just all of these stories and all these examples of like, and the reason I posted was because I was like, I'm being complicit now if I'm not sharing the little things, even the little things, but they're big too. Like the way that I've had to live my life and how I've had to survive, literally to like survive and thrive, is by like overcoming all these things. But for some other people, that's my privilege, is that I'm able to do that now. And I have the tools and the people that like, and you know, the safety to be able to do that. But a lot of people don't. And so I think that, I was like, I realized so much like, oh, there's a certain responsibility now, like I can't deny that there's a certain responsibility to share that and other things.
Also, they're little things, right? But it's like a piggy bank, right? Like putting pennies in a piggy bank, and like before you know it, it weighs 100 pounds. Yeah. You know, they're little things, and it's cumulative. And I always look at it like, I always look at it when someone's angry, you know, like they're throwing off this angry energy, and it's not that big a deal, but I always feel like someone's handing me dirty dishes. You know what I mean? Like, here, hold this dirty dish. Here, hold this second dirty dish. And I feel like by the end of it, I'm holding like 50 dirty dishes. And if everyone that you meet on the street, everyone in the world is handing you dirty dishes at some point, like how much can you hold? You know,
literally not all of them. Yeah.
Right.
Definitely not. Fucking smash them in the street, Caissie.
But I do have a question, because you were talking about like how you feel like when you go in for a role, you have to like change somebody's mind and like, you know, sort of, this is not the way that they envisioned the role. So this is a question for both of you, because I think that all three of us maybe are like a little bit of like expectation defiers. Like we'd maybe call ourselves that.
Yeah,
have you
for sure. It's my favorite thing.
Have you found in your lives that when you defy someone's expectations and then you win them over and then they get comfortable with you, then after some time, has anyone ever confessed to you what their very insulting first impression of you was? Like, and they think it's like somehow charming?
That's definitely happened.
Why do people do that?
What is that?
Oh, it's a
Is that you?
siren. Yeah, it's a siren on my end. We're in New York today.
It's actually like a really pleasant siren, though.
I agree. I thought I
was
have
like,
to be
is that
honest.
church bells?
Oh, I kind of thought that it was an ice cream truck.
What
but I guess
no, just a siren.
That's what I
Someone's
want.
hurt. Something's happening.
Oh, well, I hope they're okay,
Yeah.
whatever it is. I hope it's not that serious. Why do people do that? I have had so many people confess to me, like, people will be like, you are really, really very smart. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much. And they'll be like, I got to tell you, when I first met you, I thought you were kind of stupid. And I'm
That's
like,
happened to me a lot too. And
Yeah.
I kind of take it as I take it as a compliment now. Or like people, I mean, because it's kind of true. Like I had a friend say, like, when you're like smart, you're like so smart. And when you are dumb, you are actually so dumb. And I think that also pandemic now, I like have no social, like I used to have great social skills. And now I like can't do like simple,
that's everybody.
I don't know.
That's everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is. It truly is. Even
Don't
me.
paint yourself with that brush right now. We're going to talk about it more in a little bit.
I found people do that to me too. I mean, listen, I love defying expectations. I live for it. And I do think that that's like born out of the place of of knowing what people expect from me based on the way that I look and how loud I am and, you know, what I dress like or whatever. And just living with that for so long and making the decision at whatever point that I'm not going to temper those things, that I easily could change some. You know, I could change I could modulate my voice. I am an actor. I could learn how to speak in a more neutral, less like Valley Girl loud, like, oh my God, you guys. But at a certain point I was like, fuck them. They're going to like, if they want to think a thing about me, I'd love to prove them wrong.
Right. I used to be like, I mean, and I think now that's a good question because I think the answer is different now with like expectations and first impressions. I remember like whenever I would start a project like a couple of years ago and stuff like that, I'd always be like, okay, this is the one where everyone's going to think I'm like super chill and cool. Like I'm going to start day one and I'm going to be like, really like just like cool and like not saying I'm not cool, but like eventually my spastic comes out and I'm like, shoot, I like did it again. Okay. Well,
Wait,
next
Ashley,
and now
how old are you? How old are you?
I'm turning 30 in June.
Oh my God.
I know.
That's
Happy birthday.
exciting. Happy early birthday.
Thank you. I'll be alone in Paris, but it's Paris, so it's fine.
Because did we mention, in case you didn't know, Busy hates when I explain things to people, but in case you didn't know, Ashley is like one of the stars of Emily in Paris. Speaking of being stupid, I really didn't know it was Emily in Paris. I thought it was Emily in Paris.
Me neither. I've literally never called it that. There is no way it's called Emily in Paris.
I never felt stupider than when Netflix was like, it's Emily in Paris, by the way. And I was like, oh.
If Netflix, if that's one of those internet jokes, because they just hired like a pithy teen to run their social media and it's not actually true, I will be annoyed.
No,
because,
it's not true.
Wait,
saying
it's
it here.
100% not true?
I 100% I think that tweet was a joke.
Okay.
And then people took it seriously. At least as far as me and every person in the cast and team is, I don't think it's that.
I've changed to Emily in Paris because I thought I don't want to get in trouble.
I try to respect authority. You know what I mean?
I do too.
When Chrissy Teigen said it was Teigen, I switched to Teigen. And when
can I be honest? We were the only people that ever said Teigen.
I know, and
is it Teigen?
I'm like, if she said it was Teigen. I say Teigen. When Ariana Grande said it was Grandy, I switched to Grandy. So I mean, I'm just trying
You gotta respect people's wishes.
Yeah,
you do. I just don't think you need to respect Emily because it's also you have to say Emily in Paris, and that just sounds silly.
I agree.
Yeah.
Listen, I agree. Well, you heard it here, folks. You can stop saying Emily in Paris.
Calm down. Calm down, everyone.
Emily in Paris, but also more importantly, no, I'm kidding. Everybody loves Emily in Paris. Emily in Paris is amazing. But also, Ashley,
our show
on Girls 5 Eva.
I texted Busy about this, but I have to say to your face, no, Busy. like from the clips I've seen, but also the trailer, like this is what's so funny to me. First of all, you're just like, you really are like a masterclass. Like you just like have it in your bones and your blood. And it's the same thing as this. It's like, because I know you said a lot, like, oh, this was the lot, like, I'm out of the business now. Like, I've tried to quit the business so many times. I think it's like one of the first things you said to me. And you're like, here 100%. I am again in a trailer. But the crazy thing to me is like, when I watch you in something like this, it is just so clear. Like, you know, when you see someone on a stage, you're like, it is so clear you're supposed to be on a stage. Like, you were at home on, like, sets, like TV sets. Like, you just, like, it's just, like, your precision and, like, your comfortability and, like, the colors that you bring. It really is, like, I mean, this is why I'm, like, lucky, is because I constantly keep getting to work with these women who I'm like, should I pay them for, like, a master's degree? Like, this is so, like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's so nice, Ashley. Thank you.
I mean it.
Well, you helped me a lot because, you know, the dancing and the singing's not. Dancing and singing at the same time, Ashley.
You were great. What are you talking about? No, listen.
I'm fine, but really, but dancing and singing at the same time is like, I have such respect for the fact that you've done all those shows and have done them however many 8 shows a week or whatever you guys do.
Dancing and singing is harder on set because it's like, you better get it right because that's what's staying. Like, you can mess up on stage and you, like, get to do it again tomorrow and, like, who really recorded that? It's a lot more high pressure to be like, oh my God, the angle's here. Okay, what? You know, like.
We had so much fun, and Ashley was amazing because remember, Caissie, how I had kind of gotten in trouble for, like, putting stuff on Instagram stories, and they sent me that email.
I do.
Ashley was kind of my partner in, like, that's insane. Let's just do it.
Because it's only helping them. What are you talking about?
I know.
Like building buzz.
We had a big conversation about this. That was one of our first ones. I was like, I think one of the successes of Emily in Paris was that, like, we were able to do that. Like, what's the big secret? I mean, there's spoilers,
it's
but
really
like,
interesting. It's a very, like, old school versus, like, new school. It's really interesting. I worked on a show once where there was, like, a very old school person who would get very upset when we would, like, make promos for the show because they were like, you're spoiling it. And I was like, we're promoting it, like, to make people want to watch it. I don't know.
Right.
Like,
well, and especially with a show like that, where it's like so much of it is going to be like, especially you 4 women together, is getting, like, the chemistry is like knowing what people were like behind the screen. Like, people love that me and Lily Collins are best friends, you know, that, like, helped with, like, the show kind of, you know, and so
it's really cute.
And also we just had the best, like, 90s costumes and all this stuff. Like, it was just fun. So
we had so much. I mean, you were so good at taking pictures and, like, capturing things, and I feel like you are, and I feel like I'm pretty good at it. I feel like you're really good at it, and then I'm concerned that we don't have any other, like Renee did some stuff.
She did a lot. We all had our own little thing. Wait, there is a really cute Kodak disposable photo of you and me that I do have to send you a scan of.
Oh,
but I'm going to release it when we release, like, the music video, because I'm
good.
Trying to be good still. But, like,
I know, me too.
But did you have like an on set, like, photographer or anything, or was it all you guys?
No, not really, because
I think there's a stills lady, but I don't think we ever. But the problem is we never keep track of it, so we're not, like, posing for those.
Actually, I don't think there was.
There was
because of COVID. Really?
There was a chick with the camera. I think that was supposed to be. Otherwise, why the heck was she taking photos?
Oh, then I mean, you're probably right.
Just on some days. I think just on, like, certain days.
Oh, well, right. Like when we would have special guest stars that I can't say because spoilers.
Spoilers.
You don't
oh my God,
get
it's going to be
trouble.
so fun, though. And also, like, talk about a bingeable show. I can't believe it's, like, 8 episodes in all 30 minutes. You could, like, literally do a cycle of laundry and watch the entire thing.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
I think people will, maybe. We had a really great time, and Ashley is incredible in the show. I've seen the first 2 episodes, so I've seen more than you have, I guess.
Yeah,
it's very exciting. And it's coming out May 6th.
May 6th. And what were you filming in Ireland just now?
A movie called Mr. Malcolm's List, and it's a 18th century Regency British, very like Jane Austen, and it's totally a diverse cast. They're all British, but it's based on an original novel. But it's very like Pride and Prejudice, but written a few years ago. And they had made a short with it, with I think Refinery 29 on Kodak Film.
Exciting.
like 3 years ago. And then Bridgerton came out and I was like, wait, this is like the Bridgerton concept, but it's like, and I played truly just like a cameo, like this little part in it, but it was just the best. Frida Pinto's in it, all of these amazing Oliver Chope, Zawi, like just amazing actors.
Oh my God, amazing.
And it was Emma Holly Jones was the director. It's her first like feature. She's just this awesome British woman. So that was fun. And it'll be interesting because it's like, that's another thing. I spent the week in quarantine watching all of that Regency era because it's like, Jane Austen's my favorite author, and the Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice is like my favorite movie of all time. And it was something that I was totally okay with knowing that I would never be a part of that world. Like,
isn't that fucking crazy though?
But that's what I'm talking. It's all of these things where I wasn't like, oh man. It was just like, of course, I'm never going to be, maybe I could do like Emma, the musical off Broadway, you know, but I can't like be in a film version of it. And so when that project kind of came up, I was like, I will play any part in this. I want to be a part of this. And I was watching all these movies, like everything from like Importance of Being Earnest with Reese Witherspoon and Colin Firth, every Pride and Prejudice. And it was, and the director says like Hollywood has done that where they've completely whitewashed that era and that period and that genre. And that's Hollywood. That's not really how it was in London. So I'm super excited. It'll be good.
I'm excited that you got to do that.
I'm super excited you got to do that. And I wonder, like, does it make you moving forward think about what's possible as an actor?
Totally.
And what should be like, what's for you, you know?
It does. You know, it's funny, even some like conversations I'm having now, I'm realizing how much it's coming from me of like, oh, of course, literally Mean Girls, Gretchen Wieners. I was like, I said no to auditioning at first because I was like, I can't fly in for that. Like, I know for sure I'm not going to get it. So like, why would I?
Right.
I'm the one who counts myself out of so much.
Whoa.
There are other talks happening right now. And I'm just like, oh, but like, that's going to be like, that's too far of a stretch, you know? And maybe if I was like Hollywood royalty, maybe they could take that, you know? So, but it's constantly me ruling myself out of all this stuff. And that's what I kind of have to like change a bit.
Well, you have to retrain your brain, as we all do, right? From whatever, like the internalized, you know, misogyny, internalized racism, internalized like messages that you're just given from this fucking horrible business about what's possible, and messages about your body. Like, I've had to retrain my brain about my body. That was like a major thing for me, you know? And like, once you start to do it, you'll like catch yourself, like you say you are catching yourself, like, oh, right. But why not? Why the fuck? Why not? That's why I love that Mindy Kaling, that was like always her thing. Like, why not me?
Yeah.
Like, right.
Why not?
It's like, I guess it's because it's always been easier to survive when like your dreams, when you're being realistic with yourself and you pick dreams that you feel are attainable.
Yeah.
That are tangible for you. And it's like, we lose that as a kid so early. It's like really dreaming big, like what dreams can be.
Oh yeah. I see it with my kids though. Like, kids love to do things that they know they're gonna do well. And they
that's
really
just smart.
It's just, and they really shy away from taking risks if there's a possibility that it might not work out for them. And I think that for everybody, it's a good thing to remember that sometimes, stretching outside of even what you think is possible for yourself, it's not always going to work out. That's just, you know, statistics.
Yeah.
But you have to keep trying to push yourself in that direction and do things that, like, you know, freak you out, or you're like, oh, there's no way this is going to happen for me. But I also hope that there's a trend casting wise, like, moving forward. And I hope that agents and the gatekeepers and the people who and the casting directors, I hope that they're pushing that as well. Because it's not just as easy, guys at home, Hollywood break. It's not just as easy as Ashley being like, why can't I be this, you know, whatever. Like,
yeah.
Holly Golightly or whatever.
Right.
I don't even know why I said Holly Golightly. By the way, Breakfast at Tiffany's is not my favorite movie. But I'm just saying like something that like people have like a preconceived notion of what it is.
Right.
That it's like a white,
Yeah.
I don't know. What am I saying? Caissie, help me
No.
out.
Well, who knows? But you know what I think? And I think it pertains to like kids doing things. And I think it pertains to the industry a little bit. I think, and I hope post-pandemic, that a direction that we're going in is doing things for joy purposes. And
100%.
I think that with kids, I think we need to focus on like, it doesn't matter if you're good at baseball. Does it bring you joy? Do it. It doesn't matter if you're great at science. Does it make your heart sing to explode things? Do it. Do you like knitting this week? It doesn't matter if you suck at it. Do it. And I think that we need to go that way a little bit in entertainment too. Is it joyful? Does that person in that role delight people? It just needs to be good. It just needs to be compelling to watch. And like, you know, it doesn't need to fit any type of expectations. So I'm just hoping that like joy becomes the prevailing theme of like what we're all doing in the future. And
Well,
like,
I think it has to be, you know, like I really think it can, you know, especially because we've all been going through this global thing together. I just think that like the only path to like real empathy is like when you have been through something shitty and you see someone else about to be going through that or feeling that. And because you've experienced that hardship, you're like, I don't want you to have to go through that. Like that. And that's like really feeling that. And I feel like because we've all been going through something, whatever it is, at any capacity, it's like we're hopefully going to all have empathy, and that can lead to just us trying to be joyful. Like I really do think like I like living in joy a lot. Yeah. I'm sure we all do, but like I feel very lucky in that. Like a lot of the stuff
some people don't feel comfortable living in joy.
You're right. Actually, that's completely right. Yeah. And those are the people, they really confused me. And I've had to take a step back with some and be like, oh, that's your truth. Like I thought we were all trying to find joy. And like my problem has always been in that, like, sometimes I've given myself too much to try to make joy for other people or like a friend or something like that. And I'm like, oh, like at a certain point, like you need to want that for yourself too. Right. And like, it's only detrimental to us both if I'm trying to make that joy for you, you know?
Yeah, you can't. I mean, that's the fucking truth, man. Before we talk to Ashley, guys, because we just have such a special episode today. Ashley's joining us as guest host and interviewee. Guest. Oh, okay. That makes more sense than what I would just said. Listen, again, guys. Just doing my fucking hanging on by a thread. We missed last week. We've all had sound issues. I know the sound was terrible that one week. We've missed a lot.
It's all going to be fine.
It's fine. By the way, it's just a podcast. It's not that deep. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Okay. So we like to talk about what we're all doing our best at this week. Ashley, you know that because you've listened to the pod.
Yes.
So you can go last because you're our guest and our guest host. Caissie, what are you doing your best at this week?
Okay, I'll just go real quick. I was invited to my first post-vaccine dinner party.
Wow.
And which was like, it was lovely. It was by a mutual friend of Busy's and mine, and who I won't name because that's, you know, weird. But it was so nice and it was so wonderful. And it was like me and 4 other cool, also vaccinated ladies, and it was so lovely. But when I tell you, I didn't know how to make an outfit. I didn't know how to drive there. I didn't know what to bring. And I talked so fucking much. Like I talked 1 year's worth of talking. And I was like, I just could not stop. And I was like, oh my God. Like I was just thinking in my head the whole time, oh my God, Caissie, stop talking.
Don't you feel like you're like high even? You're like, am I paranoid? Like what's happening? Are you uncomfortable? Should I stop talking? Do you want me to talk more? What do we want me to do?
I wanted to like put my purse over my head. I just could not stop. I was like apologizing. The only time I stopped talking was to apologize for how much I was talking, and then I just kept talking. It was those poor 5 ladies got 1 full year of talking. And if you're listening, those 5 ladies, I'm sorry again.
Do you feel though that like they also were probably talking a lot too?
No, I don't know how they could. It was impossible.
Oh my gosh. But you have a lovely speaking voice. That's fine.
Well, that's nice of you.
But you know what? What if their anxiety, all 5 of them was like, oh my God, I don't want to speak. I don't want to talk.
Right.
I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk.
And
so you were like solving it for them.
Yeah, you don't know.
One lady was like the host of a very popular podcast. So like she knows how to talk too. And she didn't say barely anything. She just listened to me talk all night.
But that's not indicative. We know that, Caissie. Like I sometimes get real weird social anxiety sometimes at like dinner parties and stuff. And I don't talk that much, and people are expecting me to like show up and just like be their BFF. And like sometimes that's not.
I get the same thing, Busy.
Of course.
That's actually, and talking about that first impression stuff before, that kind of thing, you know, especially when you played characters that are like everyone's best friend. And I do like being, you too, you're a great friend to people. Like I love all of my friends, and I have a lot of them, and I care about them. But it is interesting when you meet someone who you kind of maybe know peripherally or through a friend, and they're like, why aren't you being like how you're supposed to be?
Right.
Like my like bestie. And I'm like, what?
I remember like early days of the internet. Well, not early days of the internet, but like early days of people talking about you online. Before Instagram, I remember reading a few tweets from people like adding me saying that like, oh, we saw Busy Phillips eating at Sharky's. You guys, Sharky's is in LA, and it's like this like kind of, it's like Mexican fast food that's like kind of healthy, but maybe not, but we don't know. But it was Birdie's favorite restaurant when they were a baby. Aww. So I would go to Sharky's all the time with Birdie. Like you guys, who am I fucking kidding? I would go to Sharky's all the time. I love Sharky's. I'm trying to like, this is another thing where I'm just like trying to pass it off on my kid. I loved Sharky's. Anyway, I miss you, Sharky's. I hope you're doing all right out there in LA. Anyway, so yeah, but the one that I specifically remember somebody posted this thing that I was like such a bitch to them, you know, at Sharky's. And I like remembered it really specifically. And the confluence of circumstances was like I had like a mole burned off my face. Okay, you know what I mean? Like I had a mole burned off my face that day. I was with a toddler who was, let's be real, probably just being a fucking toddler, you know, eating rice and beans. And like, I was frazzled. I was just like, and they came up and I was like, oh, thanks. Yeah, it's nice. You know, thank you. Okay. That was it.
Yeah.
Like, and they were so like incensed that I wasn't, I don't know what,
didn't
joining
invite
their
you to
table. Like, sitting with them for the rest of the meal, or like giving them a joke or something. I was like, yeah, I'm just literally, guys, I'm just eating like my bean and cheese burrito, you know, like I can't turn it on and be your best friend in this moment. People, that has like chilled out for me since Instagram, I feel like.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel people are like worried I'm going to start crying, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I do love crying too. I do connect with you on that.
I know.
I remember there was a video, oh God, it was during Girls 5 at one point. You'll probably remember when it was, and it was like a morning and you woke up and like Into the Woods, some random song came up on your shuffle.
Oh my God.
And you like recorded yourself like crying, but it wasn't even like it wasn't like No One Is Alone. It was like like it was some random Into the Woods like reprise or something. And you just genuinely felt this and I was like, I genuinely started crying with you. I was like, oh my gosh, we have the same like seed in us of like.
Sometimes it just hits. The emotion hits. Yeah. I spent a lot of time in my life, Ashley, when I was young, like sort of pushing emotions down.
Me too,
and putting them in a little box, you know? And I used to love being an actor and getting on stage, but accessing emotions was always really hard for me, other than anger, rage, just pure unmitigated rage, and like being like loud and funny and like turning a joke or whatever. But yeah, I do feel like I kind of started getting cracked open several years ago, and now I'm just like, I really embrace it, and I embrace people who are in touch with their emotions and like who are moved by things, because I think it's really healthy. Like,
no, it is. And I didn't even realize that I was that way either. And I think it was Jesse Tyler Ferguson who was like, oh, Ashley, are you crying again? Or said something like that. I love him. He's like my brother.
He's the greatest.
He's the best. And because we did this play together and I was like, wait, am I do I cry at everything? And I realized for so long, like long story short, I had cancer in high school. And for that entire experience, I was so proud of the fact that I was like, I cried like twice the entire time.
Wow.
And it was like a badge of like honor for me.
Sure.
And so that translated into later. And I was like, oh, I can turn on the tears on stage, but I like don't cry in real life. And then I don't know when that changed because it really 180'd, and I actually don't know when it did. But like now I'm like,
was it
what?
when Trump got elected?
Probably.
Was it around that? Because that was actually for me too, like a bit, it was around that time, maybe a little before actually for me. But I felt like a seismic shift in the world. And then I was just like, oh, I can't hold all this in anymore. And nor should I.
And it's
I'm
probably not
let
even
it all
like
out.
him coming into office. It was more like the Obamas leaving.
Well, that was rough. That was rough. That was rough.
Yeah.
Those were rough days.
What are you doing your best at, Biz?
Well, I am, dude, I'm trying to get on top of that email. I'm trying to answer people. Caissie, I'm just trying to respond. You know,
I
what
appreciate
Great.
that.
That should be mine. I have like 300 unread texts. I'm bad.
I appreciate
bad at that too.
But also, your email is out of control, and it's hard. It's hard because a lot of people email you.
I'm trying to stay positive about stuff. I'm trying to I'm fucking lying. I had a really hard weekend. I was like, I'm not positive. No, today I feel good. I'm super excited about Girls 5 Eva. I'm starting to do press. I'm trying to be nice to myself about, can I just be real?
No, please.
Yeah, please be real.
This is the part about my retraining my brain about my body. So I fully have gained probably, I don't know. I don't weigh myself because I a long time ago was like, that's not a healthy thing for me. I spent a lot of time in my career being told to lose weight in my early career. That was super traumatic. I always felt like I was never the right size for Hollywood or whatever, And then I kind of was able to sort of move past that stuff. I look at my kids and I'm like, I would never want my kids to have any weird fucking bullshit about what bodies mean or that one body is better than another body just because it, I don't even know, fits into a certain size or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I've done so much therapy and work and tried to just fucking shed it. And then I did gain weight during the last bit of the pandemic. And I because when the pandemic started, I was super regimented, still working out every day and still eating my healthy food, but still having my nachos and
Yeah.
But I was just, I had more balance. And then I feel over the summer last year, it really went off the rails. And I was just give me all the wine and cookies. And now I just want to eat cookies and wine. And so now I'm getting ready. I'm doing this press and stuff. And my body is a little bit, it's different. You know what I mean? And and it's hard for me to be nice to myself about it.
It's so hard.
I don't, and I also, because the part of me in my brain where I'm it literally doesn't matter. And also you fit in clothes. It's not that I wouldn't fit in clothes. It doesn't matter if you're a size up from the size you were a year ago. You know what I mean? But my brain has such a fucking hard time with it because for so long I had my self-worth and my value as a hireable person tied into my body for me by external people and things that it's really hard for me to even just looking at the press that we're doing in the next year, or not next year, sorry, next month. The press that I'm doing in the next month with Girls 5 Eva, thinking about oh God, should I? And I'm trying to just avoid the thing. So I'm trying to be nicer to myself. I haven't been killing it, but I'm doing okay. And I have been continuing to just keep up with my workouts, which really help my brain space so that even though, and not depriving myself, I'm not depriving myself and I'm not doing anything weird.
That's
Sorry,
good.
guys, this was a lot.
No.
That's
But
okay.
I'm so glad you said that because I feel the same way, and it's very, it's it's so double-edged because you're first of all like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be doing this press and to be talking about this and like doing and like how cool I get to be in these outfits and all these different things. But it like it will take one thing for me to spiral with that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, this designer sent like, that's so great that I got this designer to like send me some stuff to like try on for this shoot or whatever. They're all sample sizes. I don't fit into sample sizes most of the time, you know, and I'm not a big person.
No,
and
you're
it takes
tiny.
one thing and I'm like, well, that, you know, and then like, and it's also hard because that's like the only, like the press, the virtual press, I saw you like posting about it the other day. Isn't it like just insane? Because it's like
so weird.
So anticlimactic in a weird way, but also like all of this energy is like focused on this. And then it's just like, that's what I'm doing. I don't know. It's just a weird thing.
It's hard.
And you're not with people in person too. Like that's the fun thing is being with them in person. And so you're stuck with yourself in a screen in an uncomfortable outfit. And you're like,
can I tell you guys something? Talk show, Hollywood Break talk show secret. I cannot tell you how many women I have seen with beautiful open dresses on amazing talk shows, or just a piece of fabric sewn up the back of a beautiful dress. Oh. Just FYI.
It's just,
FYI to everyone struggling to fit into a dress. I totally get it. But there are other women in your position who have embraced it like 10 years ago and are just like, fuck it, I'm sewing a piece of fabric in this great dress. Nobody's ever going to see the back of it. And that's it. Men do it too. But ladies.
For sure. And look, and I've had like my fair share of whatever. I'm just
You're
like
in
what I'm trying to do my best at in this moment right now is like not let it fuck with me so that I'm like, because I really have not dieted in years now. Yeah. And I really don't deprive myself of like, think like, oh, if I want nachos today, like I will eat that. If I want this, I will eat that. And I'm not one of those fucking liars that's like says that and then they order nachos and they eat one chip. I can't deal with that. That's fake eating.
Right.
That's like performative fake eating.
Right.
I'm just trying my best right now to like give myself a break and be kind to myself and not like and remember all the things that I know to be true, which is that like it doesn't impact anything. It doesn't impact my personality. It doesn't impact my talent. It doesn't impact my ability to stand up for things or to speak my mind or to be a pretty competent, sometimes good mom to these kids. Like it doesn't impact anything really of value at all.
No, and you look perfect.
Thanks. I love you, Caissie.
I love you too. Ashley, what are you doing your best at this week?
I think I'm doing my best, and maybe not great, at like transitions. I think for like a couple things, what we were talking about, first of all, like the general thing of like now people are starting to get vaccinated. Like now it's kind of possible to see people. And at the same time as like everyone being like, oh, you've been vaccinated. Can we see each other? I'm like, I'm leaving for 4 months in like a couple of days.
Yeah.
And I'm going back. And I think what was the transition, Ireland, that whole transition back was an interesting one for me because I, went from New York City to like a level 5 lockdown and filming there, and then came back to New York City and it's like spring and people are eating outside, and then going back to like they're just on another lockdown in France and like a week of quarantine there. And like that's all fine. But I think the thing that kind of like shell shocked me a little bit when I came back from Ireland is, I'm sure you've both felt this, like when projects end or whatever, like you get that, like I get super attached, like super nostalgic end of summer camp feeling. Like even when I had Rap from Girls 5 Eva, I like went and sat and like took videos of Busy and all of them. I just get so sad when things are done. And especially with TV and film, it's like theater, you were with those people for a while, but like TV and film, it's like, oh my God, I may never see these people. And I think for me, I've always like prided myself on and worked really hard on being like, whatever I do, I'm going to really make a home for myself and like a home for everyone else and like whatever it is. And like I had more time doing that and like with Emily in Paris. And I think Ireland was just so fast, So like, but I was alone for a week, didn't know anybody. And then for the next week and a half when I was filming, like they became like my family and I like really cared about these people and everything. And then all of a sudden it was like, I came back and it was over, and most of the people in my life didn't even know that I went there to film this thing. And I was like, and so like, so I literally, and then
I had a life-changing experience.
So it was, and like, it was so nice that like my parents, because I got my second vaccine when I got back, and they came, I had kind of a bad reaction to the first one. So they came to visit me for the first time in New York, you know, when I got the second vaccine, and I was just like, literally couldn't stop like cuddling against my mom for like the full week. And like when she, I've never spent this much time with her. And when she left, she was like, this is how we know you're an adult, because you miss mom now, you know? But like, I just, and like, obviously, like I'm single. I haven't been in a relationship for a while, all this stuff. And I love the people in my life. And I'm like, oh my God, the more I go along, the more I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna, like, these transitions are like crazy and wacky, and like I like figured it out for myself, but like how can I ever bring somebody else along for that ride? Like, look, I'm crying, like you know, like, but and I just get so, I'm like, how could I never see those people again? And how am I about to go into this family that I know? Like, it's just like wild. And so the transitions of like, and how blessed am I? Like, I was in Ireland and now I'm in New York and now I'm going to go to Paris to film. But like, it's like so lonely. You
have such a big open heart that everybody's like climbing into your heart everywhere you go. It seems like
that's a great way to think of it.
You know, and so that's a lot when everybody has to get out. You know,
that's so true. Yeah, and I don't want to kick them out.
Yeah, exactly. To like move on to the next place. I can't. My husband got his MFA in writing, and it was a low residency program, and so they would go for like 2 weeks at a time to have this like intense on campus thing, and they would tell them at the beginning of these residencies to not make any decisions or anything because of how intense and how life changing the work was. But he was like, people were like throwing their lives away, like being like, I'm like I'm like giving up my career.
Oh my
and like I'm in love with this person. I'm gonna marry this person. And they would say like, don't make any big decisions about your lives during these 2-3 weeks because you know it's intense and it's intense and artistic. But I think that's good, and any change especially during this time, I think is.
Well, I think that people have a hard time sometimes, Ashley, understanding the very specific intimacy of being in TV, movies, or theater and making something with a group of other people, because it's such a unique experience. And like anytime I ever hear about two co-stars like fucking or falling in love, I'm like, yeah, obviously, of course.
Yeah, they were in the trenches together.
Yeah, you're like, always in love with the people that you're working with. Always. Like even if it's you're not sleeping with them or whatever, like you fall in love with the people that you make these things with because
you have to.
If it's any good. And like honestly, anything that I've been a part of that's been kind of not great, you didn't have that thing. You know, that's why people say it's like alchemy. It's, you know, it's putting together this thing and then hoping that magic happens. And when it does, you get really, really bonded and attached to people. And like, I would just say from my old lady glamour personal experience to you that, you know, the transitions are hard, but you are such an incredible, big-hearted, insanely talented human. You're going to work for such a long time that, you know, you will maintain a lot of friendships for the next 20 years from some of these things that you've done. Like you and Erica Henningsen, who was in Mean Girls, like you guys are friends for life. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what's nice too, is from every I've like, my friend Jonalyn kind of coined this in Mean Girls. She was like, you have a lot of lifers. And I was like, that's what I want from every project, is I want to have lifers for every project, you know? And that's what's so nice about, like, I feel like you, Sarah, and Renee, and like even Paula, even though I didn't do that much with her, you know, like I could call you at any second and be like,
for sure. That's why I texted you. I was like, girl, just anytime, text me. I'm around.
Right. But it's like, that's
you
nice.
will, and you take the people with you, and they will be your lifers. And you know, you do have to mourn sort of the thing. Oh, weird. Eric Gurian's calling me, guys. Should I answer it? Wait, you're on speakerphone because I'm doing the podcast right now, and it's Ashley and Caissie. Say hi.
Hi, Eric.
Hi.
This is so thrilling. I'm honored to be on.
I saw a cute picture of your baby. Oh my gosh.
Ashley and Caissie, he can't hear you, but they're saying congratulations on the baby, and they saw a cute picture.
Thank you so much. He'll be famous for being on the podcast.
I mean, it's very exciting. Can I call you after?
We all miss you.
Yes, but you should know what I'm calling to ask you about if you've ever been to Cabo.
Are you kidding?
You go all the time, right? Isn't that
Yes. Yes.
Duh.
Okay. Well, so call me.
Oh my God. Tell him he sounds like a dad now. He has like a dad voice
does.
now.
You have a dad
Ever
voice.
been
You
to
sound
Cabo.
You sound. I mean, have
You
I
sound a
ever
little
been
calmer.
to Cabo? I own Cabo. All right. Yeah. Okay. Eric, the montage.
This episode better be called "I Own Cabo."
All right. Well, bye.
Bye.
Guys, that was Eric Gurian.
You finally got to hear his voice.
We talked about Eric a fair amount because
really?
he was our in person, like he was
your guy with the show, your show.
Busy
Yeah,
Tonight.
yeah.
He was
Yeah,
like,
so I remember him going to LA and being there.
Yes, exactly. So he was definitely a part of our lives for a year.
Yeah.
Caissie, is that right?
Yeah.
A year.
Yeah.
Do you have a good pivot story that you want to share?
What was I thinking? Because I brought it up earlier. Yeah, I mean, I feel like you know what's interesting about I love the pivot thing because I feel like for so long I thought of pivots as like either like moments or like experiences, like something like very finite. And I think that I'm on the other side of a big pivot right now. We kind of touched on it earlier that I like didn't even know that I was pivoting. But all of a sudden I was like on this side. I think I black out for periods of my life. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm here. Oh, I cry now. Oh, I'm this now. Like whatever.
Yeah.
But the big pivot is that, and I think it really has been in the past maybe 2 years, a year or so, is like for so long, I wanted to hide or was embarrassed by the fact that I was Asian. Or I just did not want that to be part of my identity. And everything that I did, everything that good that happened to me was in spite of the fact that I was Asian. And now I think that really and genuinely, and I've always wished that this felt this way for me. Like I was like, why have I never had an Asian boyfriend? Why don't I have any Asian friends? Like, why isn't that? Like, what's wrong? But now everything that happens to me, I'm like, oh, this and I'm Asian. Like, it doesn't have to be in spite of it. And it's just like, I mean, I remember even like growing up, like I hid the fact that I was a classical pianist for like my entire life. I like hated when people called me Ash because they associated that with Ash Pokemon when I was growing up, and I like didn't want to be anything.
We're too old. I literally was like, I don't know what is that? What is happening?
But like Hello Kitty, like anything, like just really anything. And like what's so interesting, I think the pivot is that because now I'm working on stuff and seeking stuff to work with not only other females but other Asian people. And like for so long my value went up in the room because this is like our world of tokenism, right? My value went up in the room when I was the only Asian or the only person of color. And that is what the problem is right now, is we're all pitted against each other. But there's room for all of us. And like for so long I found my value in being the only Asian person, which is like a really weird and scary thing. And like you look at all of my friends too, and that's not saying that those are not genuine and amazing friendships and everything, but I have made it I was talking with my agent actually, Kevin Lynn, who's just like amazing, and he's at CAA. He just like created that whole CAA Amplify thing for Asian American voices. And we were having a conversation, I think like a year ago. And we were like, what's so interesting? I wouldn't have been caught dead years ago with an Asian agent. I would rather have no one on my team be Asian. I just like didn't want, and he was like, it took him like 5 or 6 years to take on an Asian client. And he grew up, he's in his early 30s. He went to Harvard. He's like, because it was so embedded in us that like, we can only be of value if we have some kind of specialness, and our specialness is that we're the only one of us, So, but now it's like, oh my God, I look at the things I'm interested in doing and the things people I'm talking to, I'm so many of us like Asian actresses have like reached out and we never had talked or anything because it's like, you're my direct competition because there's space for only one. Right. And like, I don't want to be in an Asian story or an Asian American like screenwriters thing because then I'm only in the Asian story. Like that's where I'm like, so it's just like this whole mind shift of like, now I'm genuinely excited to be around other Asian people when for like my entire life, I was so ashamed of that part of myself.
I think anyone who's ever been marginalized can probably, it's not direct one-to-one comparison, but I think anyone can probably identify with that on some level, because anyone who's ever been marginalized has always been in that situation where there can only be one woman or one Black person, or, just there's only going to be one person of color involved with this project or whatever it is. So I think a lot of people can understand exactly what you're saying.
But it also is like, it's part of the cultural shift too, Ashley, is like, and I'm super impressed, like, even to just hear you have, to be quite honest, like the bravery to admit that. When I think about like white fragility and how many white people online still, or in person, I've had this fucking conversation with who refuse to acknowledge their own,
that's what it is. It's just
participation in it, which is like, I am fully, you have to be able to acknowledge your own participation in all this shit if you want it to get better in any way, shape, or form. And you have to look at the landscape of the country right now and what's happening all over and say, I want shit to get better.
Right. And you have to be dead honest with yourself. Like, that's like the scariest thing. It's like, that's the scariest thing, is looking in the mirror, right? Whether it's like actually or not, it's like, when you're like, I got to be dead honest and like what, and even I've talked about my mom a lot on this, because I was just with her and like thinking about her and my dad so much. And like, it's even into like, the only Asian person I was never ashamed to be around was my mother. I wanted her to come with me to everything, because guess what? She was defying every stereotype. She's just like this young, bubbly, went to UCLA, like has no Asian accent, like totally not what people would have thought this like my mother would be growing up, especially when like I was always determined to get A's and all this stuff. So you would think I had a certain kind of stereotypical mother. And so I loved bringing her around, because it always like was like, whoa, another thing that threw people off. But even that's not great. That I'm proud of my mother for being with me, because it's like throwing people off too, and like proving them wrong. And so like, it's that like mentality shift, like it's a crazy time.
We'll talk about gaslighting, right? Being gaslit. I think it's so interesting, not just the bravery to say this is what was happening, but also just being smart enough to like put your finger on it, that this is what's happening. But the biggest trick that the patriarchy played on all of us is to be like, yeah, there can only be one. There can only be one woman, one Asian person, one whoever.
Right. And if you're in a thing with all women,
13 of them lined up. And I'm like, why, but why do you get 13, 14, 15 of you and there can only be one of me? Like, why is, and we never asked. We were just like, oh yeah, there can only be one of me. Like, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, we're taught that that's where the value comes from.
Right.
It's like you're at the top if you're surrounded by white men.
Yeah,
that
and you just like step on another girl's face to get into that like one spot to like hang out with those 14 guys who are like, yeah, congrats, you made it.
Then you realize that like they're super boring. Also, their jokes aren't funny. And
no, I am so uninterested. Also, like this is like getting a little personal, but like in terms of like boys in my life too, like I was like, wow, I am so not even uninterested, but I'm so bored by any white guy who doesn't get it.
Oh my God.
Like, I do not have it in me to explain or even hold your hand through it. Like, no, get it and then talk to me. Like, I'm
once you
uninterested.
see it, once you smell it, you can't, you can never go back. Yeah.
Never go back. Well, guys, we're going to let the incredible Ashley Park go because she has a previous engagement.
Caissie and I get ready to go to Paris to go meet Emily and Perry.
Perry is waiting.
One of my entire suitcases is skincare and hair care. Like, I'm not going to be able to pack. I don't know what to do.
Wait a minute, I'm so sorry, Ashley. You're going to. Oh, I guess it's in lockdown.
It's all
I was
closed.
Like, oh shoot,
I'm so scared.
That sucks.
And they don't have any like Amazon Prime over there, so like I'm bringing it all.
You can text me. I'm here. I will. I'll ship
send
you whatever
you need.
Here's the thing. Truthfully, that is true. Anyone can ship you anything that you need. You know what I mean?
I know, but right now the mail's backlogged too. Like weeks.
Oh, is that true?
It's messy.
Uh-oh. Okay.
But you can still send it.
How many suitcases? How long do you shoot for? 5 months? 4 months?
4 months.
And how many suitcases do you bring?
I was only going to bring 3. I'm definitely bringing at least 4. There's no way.
Well,
There's no way.
I'm with you in a whole suitcase that's just toiletries. I can't. I mean, I don't know.
I'll tell you what. I am looking forward to seeing your skin in that show. I thought it was so fun, and I can't wait for the next season. I'm going to lay in bed all day and watch it. And obviously, I'm going to watch Girls 5 Eva.
Well, that'll come out before Emily and Perry. Because
I know. Yeah. I can't wait.
Girls
okay,
5
how do I...
Eva's imminent. Ashley, we love you. Travel safe.
I love you guys. Thank you for this.
Text me whenever you need something, and I'll try to get it over there.
You're a delight.
Okay, because you're being good at. I'll email you because you're really answering all those now. Just kidding.
You should text me.
Yeah, I'll text you.
I respond to texts better. Okay. Right.
Okay.
Bye,
Love you guys. So
bye.
I'm just gonna leave, right?
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah,
Bye. Oh, she's the best.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, we're holding for hair. Holding for scrunchie.
I'm very uncomfortable today, Caissie. I don't know if you can tell. I've been shifting around a lot. I'm like,
It happens. I think it's like, maybe you have like sensory integration issues. Do you think?
Well, sure, obviously.
Yeah, that's like an ADHD thing. My
obviously.
husband,
I have all that shit.
My kids
I have all that
have
shit.
that. Yeah.
Sure.
Do you have do you have like certain socks you can't wear? Certain shirt collars?
I mean, I don't know. I just have stuff that like at certain times I'll put on and I'll be like, absolutely not. Get the fuck off of me.
Yeah.
I just love Ashley Park so much. What a sweet, lovely, talented person.
She's so multi-talented.
A
triple threat.
The voice, the dance moves, the acting, the knowing how to pronounce Paris.
I mean, I'm really glad that she cleared that up because that was a firestorm.
I feel like, listen, we don't get a lot of press on this pod right now, but I feel like that's a scoop.
If that doesn't land us in peoplemag.com,
well,
I
there's
don't know
no
what
justice
will.
in this world.
Yeah.
I did spray some ant spray while she was talking because I've been having been raining here the last couple days and I had an ant situation over here.
A real vermin problem.
Let me tell you something. The fucking vermin, the mice, that mouse situation. Guys, have you missed my Instagram story of the mouse that Ray and I tried to capture with a mixing bowl that then Ray like smashed the mouse in half on accident with the mixing bowl, and then we put a box over it. We didn't know that it was smashed in half. It was a disaster.
Yeah.
A true fucking disaster.
Yeah.
But wait, I don't want to talk about that. I wanted to ask you about the explosion.
Oh.
What the fuck happened, Caissie?
It was crazy. Okay, so the other night we were having dinner, a late dinner, my family, and all of a sudden there was just like a bang.
I saw your tweet and you were like, was there just an earthquake except it was just like hitting my roof?
Like one bang, and we were like, we thought a tree fell on our roof. And of course, like my husband wanted to run right outside, and I was like, that could have been like a gunshot. It could have been someone kicking through our fence. It could have been...
You never know.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, babe, maybe like don't run right outside like the stupidest person in a horror movie. Like maybe give it a second in case it was like someone, like kicking down our fence or whatever. And so he was like, no, I got to find out what it is. So he ran outside and he was like inspecting, and there was no tree on our roof. And then our neighbor ran out with an axe, which entertained me.
An axe?
No, and it was like a decorative axe, I guess he had pulled off his wall.
I mean, well, first of all, we need to get into why does he have a decorative axe?
I don't know.
on his
I
wall?
was pleased it wasn't a gun. I'll say that. I was like, I'm glad his only defense is a decorative axe,
Yeah.
But I also was like, he thought he was going to fight an earthquake with an axe. But also he was thinking home intruder. So that made me feel better that I was like, Matthew, don't like go outside and try to fight whatever it is. So it wasn't a tree. It wasn't whatever. And our neighbor who's lived in Los Angeles for a long time said maybe it was just like a real quick bang earthquake. And we were like, but that's weird because it did feel like it was something that fell on our roof. And so then the guys were talking and saying like it felt like it came from this direction, whatever. But it turns out that it was a house that exploded
Holy
a couple
shit.
blocks from here, which we thought it was a gas explosion.
And was it a meth lab? Was it a meth lab?
It wasn't a meth lab, but it does turn out that it was possibly a marijuana growing operation in some.
How does that explode?
I don't know exactly. I think it had possibly to do with the fertilizers that they were using.
Oh, sure. That's an explosive.
Yeah.
Right?
So I don't want to besmirch anyone before all the facts are in, but it seems like
this is actually going to be used in a court of law.
Yeah.
So
So it did whatever happened.
Your
it made an
your
entire
recollection of the events is going to be played at the trial from this podcast.
Whatever happened, it did make a house blow the fuck up. And then there was just like helicopters everywhere. And there is like, oh God, talk about, I'm going to get my whole family whacked. But there's like a house that we call it the Kingpin's house because it like really looks like it's owned by like a kingpin because it's very fancy and it has like a lot of fancy things added onto it. But the kingpin's,
my God,
the kingpin's house, like all the windows got blown out and everything.
Holy
a lot of
shit.
people's windows got blown out. But yeah, our friend Keisha lives right nearby. And here's what I learned on Twitter is that a lot of people I know are like actually our neighbors, live within like blocks of us. So, once we're all vaccinated, we'll all hang out. But yeah,
wow,
it was very scary and
that's wild.
Yeah. And then a lot of helicopters and still like a lot of helicopters coming around. And I'm like, yeah, it's still blown up, guys. Still blown up.
They gotta get the shots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look.
But surprisingly, no one was killed. So that's why I feel,
well, thank
I feel
God.
like,
You can talk about it because no one was.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did something crazy last night.
What'd you do?
Well, it's been a rough time. If you were listening to this and you're like, ugh, she's so fucking annoying, always talking about how it's been such a rough time. I hear you. I really do. Also, it's been a rough time.
Yeah.
And for everybody. And like a lot of transition, a lot of change. And like, it's also just a weird time. Yeah. And for us, like moving across country has been really tricky and all that.
Yeah.
And, we got fully vaxxed. And I was doing press today, so I was getting COVID tested anyway. I knew that.
Yeah.
And on last week, we were downstairs and Mark was looking on the computer. And now, guys, here's a thing. I don't know if you know this or not, but Mark is a longtime Lakers fan. Such a huge Lakers fan that Mark has had season tickets for like 20 years.
Right.
Even through the really bad years.
Right.
When I was like, are we sure that that's the way you want to spend your money on that? Okay.
Right.
And he did because it really brings him a lot of joy.
Right.
And I'm all for like, what brings you joy? And he would sell tickets and like, he would go to a fair amount of games a year in person, like probably 20, I guess, at least a year, depending on the season. So, here we are. And he's like, I don't know, on the computer as one is. And he's like, hey, the Lakers are playing the Knicks next week. You can get tickets. And I was like, what? How? That doesn't make any sense. And he's like, yeah, it's only 2,000 tickets out of the stadium, which seats over 20,000 people. And you have to present, they have on-site COVID testing, and you have to have a negative test or present proof that you're fully vaccinated with this, like, have you heard about this like weird thing? Like it's like a passport thing.
Oh, like a vaccine passport. Yeah, everybody's very upset about it.
It's called something though, like the Exodus or something.
Oh, I don't know.
There's one that's like, it's like has a name.
It sounds cool.
I mean, I want one. But you get tested, you wear a mask, like the seating is, you're fully at least 6 feet away from anybody else.
Yeah.
It's not like, whatever. And I was like, would that be something you would want to do? You want to go see the Lakers? And he's like, I mean, yeah, I really want to do that. And I was like, okay, well, sure. I guess. Yeah, I'll do it with you. And he was like, really? I was like, yeah, I mean, seems wild, but it feels like they have like a lot of steps in place. And like, I know that that's something you've really missed. And like, yeah, let's just do it. And I'm making myself sound nicer than I am. I just realized that I'm like,
you were like 25% bitchier.
Well, I'm just like, it wasn't all that deep. I just was like, sure. But in my head, that's what I was thinking. But I didn't. Yeah. But, sometimes you don't verbalize the things that you're thinking. And you're just like, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking was like, I know that it really means a lot to him to get to see the sports people do their thing.
Yes.
And he hasn't had that in quite some time. And I just was like, yeah, sure.
Okay.
So anyway, get our tests on site booked. Like you can book a special time. You have to fill out a questionnaire. Really felt like, let me tell you something. Felt like Madison Square Garden. Guys, I'm not drinking. I literally have not had anything but water today. Feels like Madison Square Garden really had the protocols, like had it all figured out. And it was very strict. And there was a lot of security and a lot of like, little circles where you could stand,
Yeah.
to wait in line and stuff, whatever. So we went to Madison Square Garden. We got our COVID tests. You had to wait outside for the test results to come back. They ping through to your phone. Then you had to show these security people like the proof that you filled out the health form on the app, and then you had to show them the negative test and then your ticket. And then you got to go in. And it was just like the whole thing was just so surreal. Like it just felt so wild that we were doing it,
Yeah.
And Mark refused to wear any of his fancy Lakers gear, and he refused to let me wear anything that said Lakers on it because as a Lakers season ticket holder in Los Angeles at the Staples Center, he finds it disrespectful when fans have the team that are coming into play wear their jerseys and are obnoxious. And he refused to do that in the home of the Knicks. He wanted to be respectful.
Now, let me say something. We talked a little
the Knicks.
We talked a little bit about this on the phone. Actually, Mark and I talked a little bit about this on the phone before. So you're telling this for the podcast audience. But I talked about it to my husband, he's not a sports fan at all. But I mentioned that Mark didn't want to wear Lakers gear to Madison Square Garden. And my husband was like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't either. He thought that was like, he got it and respected Mark's decision.
Okay. I talked to my friend Goldie, texted with, but still, that's how we talk. That's how everybody talks. I texted with my friend Goldie, who's like huge basketball fan.
I know Goldie, yes.
Mm-hmm. And Goldie said Mark is correct. Yeah. That is the appropriate, correct thing to do.
Yeah.
You're in someone else's home. You don't flaunt it, even though they're coming into play. There's no need. You don't have to be that guy. And I was like, wow, this is a wild. I didn't realize that this kind of etiquette on some level exists with. I don't know.
Listen,
I've never.
This goes for anything, not even basketball. Always err on the side of respect.
Well, let me tell you, then I'm waiting in the line. They have one line for if you have a bag with you because it has to go through the x-ray.
Sure.
So I was waiting in that line. And I was a little annoyed because the lines without the bags, were empty. Yeah. And but then I got to the front and there was a man there. And he said, "Welcome back, miss. You came to the world's most famous arena. Are you excited?" And I was like, yeah. And then he's like, you have a great night. Stepped through the metal detector and I heard, welcome back, miss. You came to the world's most famous arena. Are you excited? Have a great night. And he was saying it to every single person that had to put a bag through the metal detector thing. That was like his, and I loved it. I loved it. And I thought about him. Yes. And this is what I was thinking, because I always build a story.
Yeah.
He was an older gentleman. I know just from the Staples Center, from Mark having those season tickets, I've only gone for however long. I've known Mark 15 years. But the ushers, the people that work there are the same people. You see the same people every game. Like they're lifelong employees of the Lakers franchise and the Staples Center and whatever. And I just imagined this man at home waiting to be able to go back to Madison Square Garden. And I wonder if it always was you came to the world's most famous arena. Are you excited? Or if this is a new thing that he came up with during the lockdown, during the time when he wasn't able to work.
That's a good question.
I almost wanted to circle back and ask. But if you're a person who's gone to Madison Square Garden for events and you've had to go through the bag line and there's been an older gentleman and he said something to you and then you've noticed he's saying the exact same thing to everyone else, was it, welcome back, you came to the world's most famous arena, are you excited, have a great night? Or was it something else? Let me know.
We want to know.
Like and comment below.
We want to know. Well, I love that.
That was just the beginning.
Oh.
And then we went in and it was just weird. It just felt very empty.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was super empty. And most of the food isn't open. And I was a little bummed because I really wanted whatever the hot honey chicken was, whatever that was. Hot honey fried chicken looked real good. Not open.
Not available.
Not avail. But yeah, we were so far away from anyone else. And but the people in the celebrity row were Spike Lee was there.
Oh,
which
I love Spike.
It's a great celebrity row.
It's a great
sighting.
Celebrity sighting. Yeah, I love Spike.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think. Was there anyone else in the celebrity row? There just weren't that many people.
Yeah,
we were on the Jumbotron right in the very beginning, and
I'm sure everyone was.
Well, that was the thing that was kind of wild. Sort of, the camera guy was just like, "Hey," and he would just wave up to you, and he'd be like, I'll just put you up next, so you can just." But we didn't get singled out like that. There was a guy that was being honored for a thing that he did.
Yeah,
he seemed like a nice guy, and we were just behind him.
Okay.
I tried to get Mark to get his camera out to take a picture, but he didn't get it out fast enough, and that's not on him. That's really just I should have known. Really, that we should be ready at all times for the Jumbotron moment. What are you
gonna do? But it was fun overall. Weird.
It was weird. I thought it was weird.
It's weird.
There's no one around you. I mean, to be honest, Caissie, it was sort of the way I would always want to go to a sports thing and see people.
Yeah.
Because I just don't love the crowds.
We're just re-entering into a completely different world is what I think it is. We've had this conversation about, you and I have had this conversation where you're New York, you've been back to LA and you're my LA is gone. It's so different than the LA I lived in. And I don't know any better about what New York was, it's
so just where I live now.
Yeah, it's just where I live now. And I'm New York is so different. The New York that I know isn't the same anymore. And LA is relatively new to me. But then I'm it's so weird because I'm okay, so you went to Madison Square Garden and there was 2 people there or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'm here in LA, the ArcLight closed,
I can't fucking believe that.
Which is like the movie theater here, the Cinerama Dome, which is like, people were like just falling to the ground and
do you even
dying. Wait,
Wait, Caissie, do you even understand that yesterday when we found out about the ArcLight, I said to Mark, like, well, that's the death knell. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, we can't, you have no idea. Like, I didn't even join in on the ArcLight morning and stories and stuff because I just was like, honestly, I can't even wrap my head around it. Like, if you were a person that like loves movies, which obviously I am.
Yeah.
And like the Cinerama Dome is. And the Cinerama Dome, I'm sure will like, they'll open it up. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I just, it's a landmark. It was landmarked.
Yeah. Yes.
So they can't destroy it.
They're not going to tear it down, but.
Well, at one point there was a discussion about them tearing it down. This was,
right.
I mean, I lived in LA, 23 years.
Yeah.
There was, and that's when they landmarked it. But like the ArcLight was in Hollywood was everything. Like everything.
Yeah.
So much happened.
Yeah.
For me at the ArcLight. I was a founding member or whatever. Like some people were like bragging about that online. Like I was a founding circle member. I was like, yeah, me too, bitch.
Yeah.
I was a founding circle member too.
No, I mean, I'm hearing people when I first came to LA, I worked at the ArcLight. Like I knew the bartenders there. It's like, it's like this really lovely theater where everybody just loves movies so much and they introduce the films.
It was the first time, from my experience, the ArcLight was like the first time that you could like pick your own seats and you had reserved seating.
Yes.
And it was like the whole place was like made toward the film going experience. And it was more expensive.
Yes.
So like when I was, younger and didn't have as much like expendable income, the decision would always be made like with my friends, like what movie are we going to see at the ArcLight?
Right.
As opposed to just like you could go to like the Bev Cent and go to like the trash theater.
Right.
Or you could go to, the Grove was like,
yes.
The Grove was something else.
It's a Pacific Theater, which is also closing.
They own.
Yeah. The Pacific Theaters are also closing.
They are?
Yes. There's going to be like there's going to be like XXX theaters left in Los Angeles. It's rough.
There aren't any XXX. The Tomcat closed. You don't even remember the Tomcat.
I know.
See, Caissie, you don't even know.
It's rough. For me, the ArcLight is like, like I only went a few times, but like when I first moved to LA, like a really special thing for my family is Wes Anderson films, which I know people are like, oh, Wes Anderson. But my boys really love Wes Anderson films. And it's always a really big deal for them to see them together. Like they'll really like make a point to see them together and they see them multiple times together. And so when we first moved to LA, Isle of Dogs was out and it was, the first time the boys were living apart because Eli was on the East Coast in college and Lincoln was on the West Coast. And so we went to the ArcLight to see Isle of Dogs and it was like with Eli's permission, kind of like, you can go see Isle of Dogs. I know you want to see it. You can go see it. And so we went to see it and they had a display of all the stop motion puppets from the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And so because they'll always have the costumes or the props from the movies on display at the ArcLight. And there was actually a big display of you because I Feel Pretty was coming out. So there was
was super exciting.
Yeah. So there was a huge picture of Busy on the wall. And then the stop motion puppets from Isle of Dogs were there, and you could see how much they had been used. Their joints were like coming through the skin of the puppets. And Lincoln was taking so many pictures and sending them to his brother and being like, oh my God, it's so exciting. The puppets from the movie are here. And like, they're here, really here, the real puppets. And, it's like, it was a pretty big deal. So I definitely know that it was a very, very special place. And just to see everyone's like emotion over losing that place. And then you're like, that really sucks. You could feel how much it sucks for everybody here in LA. And then today, like, I'm like, log onto Twitter and see that New York now has like robot police dogs.
Wait, what?
Oh, you didn't see that?
No, I haven't been. Okay, I'm so sorry. I was doing Late Night with Elmo, okay?
Yeah.
I was a guest. I was a guest, a future guest.
Yeah.
On Late Night with Elmo.
Because Elmo has a late night show.
Yeah, I don't, but Elmo does.
No. Yeah. A couple puppets have late night shows.
Listen, a lot of puppets. I'm going to go so far as to say a lot of puppets have late night shows. Did you watch Zoe's the trailer for
yeah.
Zoe's
it looks really
show?
good. Yeah.
It looks so fucking amazing. Guys, if you don't know who Zoe is, she's a writer and a comedian, and
look into her.
She's fucking amazing. And she has a new late night talk show that's going to be launching on, I think, Showtime, right?
Yeah. I think so.
And I'm obsessed with her.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think I want to be a guest. She did. Okay, so guys, she did. If you know who she is, then you'll like appreciate this. If you don't, then look into it.
Yeah.
But like sort of early days of her lockdown impromptu Instagram live shows she was doing.
Yeah.
She reached out to me on Twitter and was like, hey, I think you'd be an iconic guest or something like that. And I was like, oh, fuck no. I wrote back. I was like, that's amazing. Yeah, I don't think so. Thanks though. Like, I can't do it.
Well, because it's a little bit of like a self-awareness test, right? Because it's like,
I have a lot of self-awareness.
Right.
And you know what my self-awareness knows? That I can't do that. I can't put myself in that position. I'll just cry.
Yeah. Because it's a little bit of like a gotcha show. Like that's kind of the point.
It's the point. And it's so fucking funny.
Trip you up and get you on one of your spots where you're not seeing the whole picture, right? And so, it's a really good. It's really good that Instagram was really good, and
it's fucking genius. She's genius, and
yes.
I'm super like excited about the show. I can't wait to watch it.
What's happening? Is everything okay?
I'm looking now.
At the robot police dogs?
No, I'm looking at Grimes got a humongous tattoo of alien scars on her back. These are the things that are trending for me.
Yeah.
The Minnesota police officer, Kim Potter, who shot and killed Dwante Wright during a trap. I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's something is happening there.
Yeah.
I can't see the rest of the headline.
She resigned is what happened.
Right, because she couldn't tell the difference between a taser and a gun, apparently.
Yeah.
Is her excuse.
I think also she was probably allowed to resign so that she can like probably keep her retirement instead of being fired.
Fuck, man.
Yeah.
Shit's hard.
It's
Jesus.
A lot. It's Minnesota really needs to get its shit together. The entire United States needs to get its shit together with respect to policing, but Minnesota in particular. I cannot imagine the pain of Black people to be watching the Derek Chauvin trial going on and to have another Black man killed as that's happening I can't imagine.
And this is like kind of what I was saying a little bit when Ashley was on the phone. Still the amount of white women on my Instagram posing, get your facts straight. He had a warrant for his arrest. And it's like, okay, first of all, get your fucking facts straight. Like,
right.
Since when does a warrant out mean that someone should be murdered? Let's just start there. Let's start there.
And
start there.
Yeah, start
and
there.
And then let's start to unpack the fact that like the window shield obstruction law is just a racist bullshit law so that officers can stop and frisk people that they've profiled.
Right. And that the warrant was for pretty much nothing and that it was sent to the wrong address and blah, blah, blah. Just it's a lot of the system failing and failing again. And someone winds up dead again. A young father winds up losing his life over nothing. for no reason.
Just like a young kid.
Yeah.
But then I mean, that's the disconnect for me is when people aren't willing to just walk the 2 extra steps in their brain to like think critically. Like that they're so entrenched in this idea that like police is just to protect and to serve all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're so entrenched in this idea that even now they can't see beyond. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, my friend, she wrote this on Twitter. She doesn't have anything to do with policing. Her name's Kelly Wickham Hurst. She's an educator, and she just wrote about the need to control young Black men in school. And she wrote this really interesting thread about when LeBron James started wearing a sweatband to play basketball, how young Black men in school, in the school where she worked, started wearing sweatbands, and how she started getting messages from white teachers saying, this must be stopped. And she was like, why? Like, what is it hurting? What is it harming? And how much effort went into, how much effort was taking away from educating these young men, these teachers taking time to band together and spend their time to come up with a plan to stop these young men from just wearing fucking sweatbands to like emulate a hero of theirs, an athletic hero. And then finally, like, you know, they won. The boys were told that they couldn't wear the sweatbands. And it's like, how do you, and it's just about control. It's just about controlling behavior. And it's like, what is the harm in that? And then you realize that it really is just about power and control. And I don't know what that is. It's
really
not
upsetting.
It's disturbing. It's disturbing to see that because you can tell yourself that, you know, you can tell yourself like, oh, it's a white, angry male thing and that it's like something that sick men do and it's something that, you know, but then it's not just, is it?
It's not. No, it's not.
And so when you have a woman who follows you on Instagram and loves your workout videos and then tells you to get your facts straight about the warrant out for someone's arrest, then it's not just, is it?
No. And like, by the way, in order to justify the murder of a young Black man by another murder.
Right.
To justify it, to do the fucking mental gymnastics in her own brain as she's commenting. Incensed, so mad, so upset that I would post about it.
Right.
That this kid deserves justice.
It's got to change. And there is nothing wrong with rethinking your ideas, old ideas. And that's
what I was saying. Like, I think is so fascinating. And so that's why I said to Ashley, I thought that was so fucking brave.
Yeah.
For Ashley at age 30 to admit that is pretty fucking amazing. Like I bought into a thing. I was wrong. Like about my own race, like about my own, you know, place in the world.
It's a lot.
My head hurts.
I think people are feeling really, really heavy-hearted, and you know, and a lot of people have kind of written in, like on our Instagram, saying like, "I wish you'd talk about this and like tell us what we should do." And like, what should you do? I mean, like, you should do the homework and you should check in on people that you love. Their hearts are heavy. People's hearts are heavy. People are fucking tired. People are fucking tired of just a day can't go by. A day can't go by without.
No. I don't think that's, listen, if there's one thing about this this time, and especially like the last 4 years, I would say, of just being sort of like a reckoning and an awareness and a waking up of a lot of different types of people, in all different ways. And like, it's the thing I always say to Birdie, right? Once you see something, you can never not see it. And so now we see it, so you can never not see it. And so it's there, and you have to like be willing to fucking deal with it. I mean, after like talking to Ashley several weeks ago and reposting the thing that she had posted on Instagram, her video, I like ordered Model Minorities, that book, because I was like, I really have never done that fucking research. I've really never looked into it. I like peripherally sort of fucking know what it is, but I've never like, I should know. I should fucking know what that is, you know?
Right.
Also, guys, I'm not great at reading books, and I'll just say this, like, it's good to have the books there, and you can like flip through them, and you can look things up, and you don't have to like commit to sitting down and reading White Fragility from front to back, and then like doing the workbook attached to like Me and White Supremacy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying you have to like go enroll in a class. I'm saying, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm saying for me, I have found it to be helpful to have the tools available so that when I have the time or the space, I can like pick it up and check it out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
But if you want to enroll in a class, do that. But
also, I mean, that's great.
Pay attention to how you consume things. That's what I think, like, I've been saying the phrase a lot, meet people where they are. Meet yourself where you are. Pay attention to how you consume things. If you're on social media a lot, then, add it to your social media diet. If you watch television a lot, add it to your television diet.
God, you're so smart. Why are you so smart? It's so exhausting how you always have the best ideas. By the way, that's the thing. Like for some people like myself, like I spend so much fucking time online, right? So like years ago, I started to diversify my feed, honestly, per your recommendation. Not even your recommendation, just like something you had said to me really resonated.
Right.
And like several years ago, I started adding like, educators and like Black influencers, even like just to get just different ideas before my eyeballs. Yeah. And sometimes books don't do it for me, but sometimes a podcast does.
Right.
And there are different places to go.
Yeah. It just makes you more familiar. And then you're more comfortable talking about these things. And then, it just, I mean, I can recommend until the cows come home, but if I'm recommending something that's not right for you and it's not helpful, then it's not helpful and you won't check it out. So the best thing to do is just to know yourself, know what you're most likely to actually take a look at, and then add it to your whatever diet. If you're
my God. So wait, speaking of which, because I talked to you about this a little bit over the weekend, but anyway, Birdie has gotten into Taylor Swift now.
Yes.
And I have to admit my own bias in this moment. Guys, don't come for me. But I was one of those people that was like annoyed that Taylor Swift never took a political stand.
Right.
Over the weekend, we watched the documentary, Miss Americana.
Yes.
And I told Caissie I was literally sobbing when Taylor was talking about Marsha Blackburn running for office and knowing that she needed to speak out and knowing that she needed to step up, and her explaining how she had been basically trained to never talk about anything that could possibly alienate someone, and how she just knew in her heart like that didn't sit quite right, but she kind of felt just sort of tied into this thing and wanting to be a good girl and like do the right thing and not make anyone upset. And she realizes, like, at what price is that? So what if I have when I have this like opportunity and this platform. And the part where I was crying is that, if you guys have seen the documentary, I'm sorry, but Caissie didn't see it. So I'm going to explain it again for Caissie. The part that I was crying about is when she's got this statement that she wants to make, and she's really thought so much about it. And you can tell it's really hard for her to go against the wishes of the people that are closest to her, in terms of like, her mom is obviously supporting her because she's sitting next to her, but I think it's like her dad, and then it's another man who seems like he's been around a long time in her life and maybe is like a manager or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was unclear who he was, but it was like two older men sitting across from her, and one of them, I can't remember if it's her dad or the other guy, says, I mean, let's just be real. If I came to you and I said, I have an idea, I just want to run by you, but you're probably going to lose like half of your audience, would that seem like a good idea to you? And just the way that they're speaking to this woman, Taylor Swift is a woman who's in control of her own career, who's like done so much fucking badass shit. At this point, had testified against that creepy ass DJ who
Groped her. Yeah.
Yes. But just sitting across from these two men that like obviously have been in her life since birth, basically, one of them at least, and having them so clearly say to her, like, this isn't your place, and her still say, like, knowing that it is, and even her talking about the Trump thing, because I was always like, so, that was where I was annoyed.
Yeah.
I was just like, my heart fucking broke, and I was like, God damn it. Here's where I have to be generous with people. Like, everyone. I have to be generous with everyone, and even myself sometimes in this regard. It's like, maybe it did take you X number of years to get to a place, but when you get to the place, like, that's fucking amazing. And you get to now move forward knowing and feeling like, okay, I can do this now. Like, I know how to stand up for this thing. And it gets less and less scary. And I just feel like that, I don't know. I just was like, I feel like sometimes I'm hard on people too, where I'm like, fuck you. What's wrong with you? Why can't you stand up for anything? You know what I mean? So afraid of losing friends. Who gives a shit? Like, I used to yell at my mom with the like horrible Republican ladies she was friends with in Arizona.
Right.
I'd be like, how do you go to lunch with these people?
Right.
They're like horrible. They don't believe that like gay people should be married, like whatever, when I was in high school. And my mom's like, well, busy. I wouldn't have any friends. And I'm like, well, who fucking cares?
Right.
And eventually, like, my mom did have it out with at least one of those ladies. And like, it took her years, but she did it.
Right.
We all reach our breaking points. Maybe yours is right now on this podcast. I don't know.
But yeah, mad respect to Taylor. I do want to watch that documentary. It's interesting, it's an interesting look into her as a human and her as like a product, a brand, and, and where those things meet and how the people in her life see her and how she sees herself. And
I'm like done being cynical, I guess, is my point.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the more succinct way, guys. And I'm sorry that I'm just not doing a good job at podcasting this week. I don't know what to fucking tell you. We took 2 weeks off. We're getting it back.
We're doing great.
Know.
We're doing our best.
We're trying.
And yeah, I think we're doing fine. You'll let us know. You'll let us know what you think. You can email us busydoingherbest@gmail.com.
Anyway, late night with Elma was fun.
I'm glad it was fun.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know. It's a process. We need to all be generous with one another and ourselves. It's my favorite video of baby Birdie that ever existed. I was pregnant with Cricket in the waiting room. You've seen the video, Caissie. And Birdie's pretending to read a National Geographic about pandas. And I'm videoing them. And I'm like, what does it say about pandas? And Birdie's like, it says that they're generous. Birdie was 4 years old. I was like, really generous. What else? And then Birdie's like, and they're wise and they're kind. And then I was like, anything else about pandas in there? And then Birdie goes, it says that they can kiss for like 2 miles and they eat 14 bowls of cereal. I was like, oh, Birdie.
Aw, sweet bird.
Oh, Bird, my sweet Bird. I love you.
We love you very much. Thank you for understanding that we took a week off last week. Those of you, 99.9% of people were understanding.
I don't know what that 1% was hoping they would get out of being not understanding.
I mean,
but you're not going to get what you want.
I mean, sometimes we just need a week off, but we're
honestly, you can't always get what you want.
Yeah.
If you try sometimes,
you get what
just
you
might
need.
find. you do get what you need. You do get what you need.
We'll talk to you next week. We love you. We love you. We love you.
A great show next week, guys. Just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait till you hear it.
It's going to be great.
Oh, no.